Yeah.
And all present here.
I, Tanisha Sharma and Megha Mishra, student member research cell, welcome you all to this event organized by Center for Criminal Law and Justice and Center for Intellectual Property Rights that are part of research cell, Delhi Metropolitan Education affiliated with Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University.
Center for Criminal Law and Justice is one of the 6 law centers under Research Cell DME. The center aims to focus on the administration of justice and on the nature of criminal behavior. The Center for Intellectual Property Rights aims at supporting academic and policy-oriented dialogue in the individual and intersectional areas of intellectual property, such as traditional knowledge, patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, artificial intelligence, and etc.
This workshop is purely premised around the idea of academic integrity, which is a crucial aspect for every scholar. It is very important for all of us to maintain authenticity while we are writing our research paper. This is a thought-provoking intellectual virtual workshop that is organized for benefiting all of us and help us in learning and reflecting on the critical topics pertaining to the ideas of academic ethics and values. Now let me quickly brief you with the structure of the program. As it says, it comprises of 3 components: presentation by a resource person, Abhishek sir, the question and answer round, and a successful submission of question form by all the participants. We will open the chat box 10 minutes prior to the end of the session of Abhishek sir. You can put all your queries and questions in the chat box. And the question form will be shared during the end of the workshop. You will get 20 minutes to fill the question form. It is a humble request not to get confused between the 2 forms as they will be sent separately. One is the question form and the other is the attendance form. Both are mandatory.
Now, without further ado, we would invite the person for this session, Mr. Abhishek Gupta. He's a partner and research coordinator at Practice Advisory and Research Collective. At PARC, he's presently working in the area of criminal law and policy, inclusive growth and socio-economic rights. In pursuit of his interest for legal research, he was associated with Delhi Judicial Academy and constitutional expert Professor Dr. Mahendra Pal Singh, who was ex-VC NUJS Kolkata, as his research assistant. He took to law in teaching 2017 when he joined Amity Law School Delhi, affiliated with GGS IPU. Keeping in mind his passion for academics and research, he joined Jamia Millia Islamia to pursue his PhD in law. Sir has also authored several articles and research papers on various issues of public importance, such as Islamic law and banking. Sir, we welcome you to enlighten all of us with your wonderful session.
Thank you very much, Tanisha and Megha. Respected teacher, Risha ma'am, Rajinder ma'am, my ex-colleague from Amity Law School, Rajinder ma'am, Garima ma'am, and my present alma mater, Akansha, and all the members of the Samekta and dear participant friends. The lecture which I'm going to give today primarily has a very specific contour. Academic integrity, but with special reference to the legal framework of plagiarism in research. Before I begin, first of all, the importance of academic integrity in research has to be underlined and underscored. Why academic integrity in research is important. For any developing country or any country aspiring to be a developed one, having a very strong basis of manufacturing, innovation, the essence or the foundation lies on its research capability. You see every country, including America, Western Europe, Australia, they have very strong research programs. In every field you will find that their research program is very strong. The emphasis on research integrity, research ethics is very important. Because once you, for innovating, for manufacturing, for delivering, you need sound research. So that's why the importance of research is important. That's why you need a very good, a very sound research framework in order to progress. Take, for example, marketing. Whenever a product comes into market, unless the data, unless the researched facts are correct, are sound, the product may or may not succeed. Taking it to the next level of at the national level, at a macro level, unless you have facts and figures properly presented, properly given to you, the sanctity of the data, the sanctity of the research is maintained, the end result will never be good. Okay, so that's why we talk about academic integrity, research integrity. I'm not specifically talking about academic integrity, but the integrity of the research process. It has to ensure sanctity. There has to be some level of sanctity in the work a researcher, a data collector, a field worker, anyone in the collection of data, in conducting or analyzing of data, or conducting research, general research, the sanctity is important. And when you break that sanctity, when you violate that sanctity, either in the data collection, either in analyzing the data, or in reporting the data, the entire enterprise, entire endeavor has gone waste. That's why the integrity, these issues are discussed as a matter of integrity. Now, coming to academic integrity. Now, since we all are students or have been students at some stage of our lives, we all have conducted research. Whether it's an assignment, whether it's an internship report, whether it's a dissertation, or it's a thesis. We all conduct research. Now, why the question of academic integrity comes into play when we are writing something? In a student's life, when he or she is working, is a BLLB student or an LLM student or a PhD student, the one aspect of his entire course stresses upon his or her writing skills and analyzation of the data. Okay, in BLLB now they have introduced the dissertation. In LLM, the dissertation is an integral part, and PhD is of course a research degree. So while we sit, once we get a topic, the first thing what we instinctively do is type the keywords on the computer. That's a very basic, the first instinct which we all have. We get some readings out of it. Very often we read it, and then we get to the writing part. Now, at the time of writing, we use some references points. जॉन ऑस्टिन ने ये कहा था, MP सिंह ने ये कहा था, Rosa Luxemburg said this thing about this aspect. But sometimes it also happens that we get an idea that let's omit the name of the original author. Who will be checking? So if a question comes, what do you understand by sovereignty? Some of us might do it that we will quote a definition. If a determinate superior not in a habit of obedience receives habitual obedience from the bulk of a given society. This is a very famous quote by John Austin. And what I will do is, I will completely remove the name of John Austin and say that this is sovereignty, in an expectation that teacher or the person who is checking the paper will not understand it and of course omit it. So what I have done, is it not an intellectual theft? Is it not a dishonest appropriation of another word? John Austin died in 18th century. he wrote something up with an expectation that since one day I will die and people will remember this quote. But the student decides that no, John Austin has not said anything. It is my word. So I'm going to show it to the world that I have made it. This is my view. And he or she will pass it on as his or her own work. That person has done. That person has deprived the acknowledgement, the attribution which should have gone to John Austin. This is what, all in all, plagiarism. This is what we call as intellectual theft. Because intellect is also a kind of a property, intellectual property, and it needs to be protected. I'm not going to say about the plagiarism is derived from a Latin word. That looks very traditional way of speaking. If you can all see it. Okay. So now I'll speak more about plagiarism. What is plagiarism? Because the problem is sometimes we don't even know that we are committing plagiarism. I'll tell you the instances where this can happen. First, let's talk about intentional plagiarism. First is the ghostwriter. You copy another work verbatim. The Austin example I gave you. The entire quote is used without changing even a word and passing it as your own, word by word. Then comes the cut, copy, paste formula. You copy significant sources, significant portions from a single source without modification. There is a 20-page article. And what I have done is I have taken one page and copied it entirely. Then comes the potluck. Now, what is potluck paper? Very simple. Instead of copying just from one source, you're copying from different sources. Okay? Altering a few sentences. But the original phrasing hai, the original sentence ka construction hai, that remains completely the same. By using thesaurus, you will change few words. Okay. Then comes poor disguise. Copying essentially content from one source. But आप कुछ उसकी appearance change कर देते हैं, कुछ words change कर देते हैं, कुछ phrases change कर देते हैं. You change some words and phrases. Again, thesaurus. I have seen some very interesting papers where they have cruelly used thesaurus. वो synonyms के नाम पे वो ऐसे बड़े words use कर देते हैं. They use such a big word that the entire meaning is lost. If you start reading it, it appears to be completely unintelligible. This has happened. This is very common. I've seen good papers presented to me, and I found that they were using thesaurus instead of, making major changes. Another interesting part is labor of laziness. The student or the writer will spend hours paraphrasing. Sab paraphrase kar diya. Everything from A to Z, everything is paraphrased. That student or the writer, I will use the word writer, student is not a very appropriate word to use here. A writer would spend 6 hours paraphrasing a 7-page document. Okay. So the first question comes, yaar itni mehnat kar lete to paper hi naya likh dete, kuch original. So this is known as the labor of laziness. Instead of putting 6 hours in paraphrasing, just spend 6 hours reading something worthwhile. Okay. And the next is the self-stealer, also known as self-plagiarism or text recycling. X person wrote a paper in 2010. It was a paper of 20 pages. Okay. And this is, I'm telling you from experience. That person wrote a paper in 2010. And in 2013, I just got hold of a book, of an edited book, in which that entire word to word article was published with a chapter, as a chapter. पहले एक जर्नल में छपवाया उस पेपर को, एंड देन उसी पेपर को विदाउट चेंजिंग इवन अ फुल स्टॉप, इवन अ कॉमा, the entire paper was reproduced into a chapter in an edited book. What is this? Now the person can say that this was my work, I have just reproduced it somewhere else. I am the creator of the paper. But this is not something you are creating. This is something which you borrowed from your past and applied in your present without changing even a word, without changing its character, without making any revision. I'll give you my example. In 2016, I wrote a paper. It was very much related to my existing area of study. And in 2016, the paper which I wrote, I felt the need of taking some of the part from it because the areas were very similar. But you won't believe that now I was of the opinion that this paper requires substantial revision. What I wrote in 2016, I could not use it in 2019 unless I revised it thoroughly. I redid the entire paper. Of course, I did not use it entirely, just a few paragraphs which I used. And I made sure that I acknowledge, I self-cite myself and provide the necessary attribution. So self-stealing is also a very serious kind of plagiarism which is happening. So these are some intentional plagiarism where you know you are plagiarizing something. You are taking the material, something from somewhere, and put it in your paper and passing it off. Next comes unintentional. Now, with anyone. Sometimes it may be lack of awareness, lack of knowledge. Sometimes inadvertent errors comes in. So even this kind of plagiarism exists. For example, a forgotten footnote. Okay, आप footnote लगाना भूल गए, या आपने footnote लगाया बट आपने प्रोवाइड पूरी इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं दी उस फुटनोट से रिलेटेड. ओके, फुटनोट तो लगा दिया, जॉन ऑस्टिन ने कहा है इफ अ डिटर्मिनेट सुपीरियर नॉट इन अ हैबिट ऑफ ओबीडियंस रिसीव हैबिचुअल ओबीडियंस, आपने कोट कर दिया, आपने फुटनोट भी लगा दिया जॉन ऑस्टिन. जॉन ऑस्टिन तो बहुत सारे भी हो सकते हैं, कोई रैंडम पर्सन भी हो सकता है जॉन ऑस्टिन. So you have not provided specific information about the location of the material. From where did you quote it? So this is known as a forgotten footnote. Next comes misinforming. This also happens that you provide a incorrect, inaccurate information sometimes. कभी कभार वेब लिंक काम नहीं कर रहा होता है या वेब लिंक डेड हो जाता है, and you cite the proper source, but because of some reason the information remains inaccurate. So in that case, this is also a type of a plagiarism, but it is unintentional. Please, I'm stressing the fact unintentional. There is no malice involved. It happens. Then there is a too perfect paraphrase. This is very common also. You paraphrase everything and you cite a source, but you don't put quotation mark sometimes. अगर आपने कोई verbatim quote लिया है, आपने उस पर quotation mark नहीं लगा. You have not indented the paragraph. You have cited the source. You have provided all necessary attribution, but आपने उसको quotation marks में नहीं डाला. Something to that effect. And another one is resourceful citer. In our vernacular, we call it Shana plagiarism. Because the problem is, it is very difficult to catch. The writer will acknowledge, will cite all sources. There is a proper paraphrasing. There is proper citation. There are proper sources used by the writer. Quotations are also appropriately used, but there is a problem. The paper has no original work. Again, I came across a book where the author had cited everything. Every line had 1 or 2 footnotes. Every part of that book. So nothing original was left. So this is what we called as resourceful citer, a Shana plagiarism. Now next comes why plagiarism happens. What are the main causes? See, this is interesting, that what are the causes of plagiarism? First of all, there is a lack of awareness about plagiarism. This is the first complaint which I have with the system, is that there is very less awareness about plagiarism at school level or at collegiate level. I don't remember in my school, or even when I was in undergrad, we were told anything about plagiarism. Never. We just knew something is known as cut, copy, paste. That's for the rudimentary, the very fundamental information we were provided. Our teacher used to say, don't cut, copy, paste, please. That's it. No further guidance was provided. Okay. Some teachers would do, you have to provide a handwritten assignment. So what we will do, we will take up the book and handwrite the book. This also used to happen. So in master's level, of course, you get to know about plagiarism. You get to know about research ethics. You get to know about these terms, these operative terms. What is research ethics? What is research integrity? What is plagiarism? What are these issues? So there is a lack of awareness. Until and unless a student is informed that what you are doing is wrong, that student, that writer would continue to do it. So that's why awareness is very important. Even the UGC regulation, which came in 2018, talks heavily about creating awareness about plagiarism. That plagiarism is a major issue, and it has to be told to students that what is plagiarism, how to protect yourself from plagiarism. If they have the necessary information, and then they make a choice whether to copy and whether not to copy, then there is an intention, there is a malice involved. Because you are telling the students, you're telling the scholars that this form of research is good and this way of doing the research is wrong, ethically, legally, so far and so forth. Lack of time. Deadline pressures are always there. There are some students in our ILI, there were some students who always used to say, whenever we used to ask him, "Bhai, project ka kya haal hai? Kuch hua?" So they used to say that we live on the edge. So on the very last day, on the very last minute, they will, give their hand in their work. And they were the one who were mostly caught. Because lack of time, they used to live on the edge. So lack of time, deadline pressure, copy paste kar do. That is the easiest way. Then comes lack of will to work. Where there is a laziness, there is plagiarism. When you are too lazy to work, when you don't want to work, then of course, you will definitely have cases of plagiarism. Over dependence on the internet for reading and writing. See, the problem which nowadays we are having, that everything is online, of course, because of the situation, so warrants it. But that handwriting, you only use either during our unit test or annual examination. So the writing skills are not well developed because we are not used to writing. Until and unless you inculcate that thing, that you have to prepare one page, you have to write up one page on a book, then you will read the book and then you will start writing, and then you will realize that what words you have to use, how you have to state a particular fact. That is very important, that there is an over dependence on internet. That's why the cut, copy, paste culture has flourished over the years, that we are not used to handwriting things. I remember once I was taking a class in criminal law, and I used to deliver a 45 minutes lecture, and I always used to reserve 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes for dictating some notes. That was a summary of the entire lecture. And I always used to carry a paper with me. And I used to handwrite it. It was, trust me, it was not copy pasted. Trust me, it was not an internet material. I always used to handwrite. And the students, some of the very unfortunate souls who were so tired, they used to say, sir, aap wo hame wo parchi de dijiye. We'll get it photostat. This was their instinctive response. I said, if you don't want to write, don't write. But this person is not going to share a shred of handwritten piece of paper to you. The good thing about that thing was that a student got into habit of writing things. When you write, you process. कॉपी पेस्ट करने में प्रोसेस कुछ नहीं होता, वो सिर्फ इंटरनेट का कंप्यूटर का प्रोसेस चलता है, i3 i5 i7 बस. लेकिन जब आप खुद लिखते तो आपका दिमाग का प्रोसेस चलता है कि आप क्या लिख रहे हैं. देयर आर सम पीपल जो अपनी राइटिंग कुछ टाइम के बाद पहचान नहीं पाते. ये भी ऐसे भी केसेस होते हैं. Next comes the poor implementation of oversight mechanism for plagiarism check. This fault rests with the institution. Educational institutions have a greater responsibility of properly implementing the oversight mechanism. This is very important for them. That whatever plagiarism tools are available, whatever mechanisms you have, you apply it more strictly. That acts as a deterrent. Unfortunately, what I have witnessed in my experience, there are institutions which do lip service to it. That is a matter of practice, I'm telling you, what I have seen in various places. But yes, there are very good institutions which I have seen where the plagiarism check, where the research integrity ethics is wonderful. You know, there is a proper committee which sits up, reads everything line by line to check out plagiarism. Okay. Now, coming to the legal and regulatory aspect of plagiarism, how the plagiarism is regulated in India. Now, there are three modes. First is the Copyright Act. This is a statutory provision which does not deal with plagiarism per se. It deals with copyright issues. I'll be taking it in a separate slide. The two important regulations which you have to keep in mind is the UGC regulation of 2018, Promotion of Academic Integrity and Prevention of Plagiarism in Higher Education Institutions, regulation of 2018, and the institutional ordinances and regulation dealing with plagiarism. This 2018 regulation which you are seeing, it is a recent one. Prior to that, there was not much guidance about it. And the universities are still in the process of amending their respective ordinances on plagiarism. The UGC's 2018 regulation has two other aspects. One is a UGC notification on self-plagiarism, which we discussed, the text recycling part. Okay. So in 2020, April 2020, amidst lockdown, the UGC issued a notification restricting and prohibiting self-plagiarism. The 2018 regulation, the one in the orange box, 2018 regulation did not deal with self-plagiarism issue. So an explanatory notification was issued in 2020, which talks about self-plagiarism, which prohibits this practice. And then comes the UGC Consortium on Academic and Research Ethics, CARE. Now UGC CARE has come up with its own set of journals, which are acceptable, which conforms to a specific guideline of UGC, of academic integrity. There was a report in 2013. I'm just forgetting the name of that the name of the chairperson, which said that there were over 35,000 fake and predatory journals operating in India, which were just publishing substandard research in India, in science, in law, in management, and in most of the fields. So the UGC started the practice of approving the journals. Then the word came UGC approved journals, which came in 2017, 16-17. And again, that problem came up, that various fake and predatory journals were approved by UGC because there was no standard given. Only a committee would sit and they will certain present some purpose and they were accepted for publicly. They were approved by the UGC not in a very strict manner, but in a flexible manner. UGC consortium is another level of ensuring that integrity, that there is a whole set of institutions and the entry process in UGC cares is much more restricted than it was earlier for. Okay, so this is the regulation part. This is the salient features which I'm showing on the slide about the UGC 2018 regulations. Okay. So it talks about ensuring academic or in any academic writing. It talks about establishing two authoritative bodies who will deliver, who will process a complaint relating to plagiarism. And thereafter, it talks about graded system of plagiarism. There are 3 levels and parallel penalties. And greater penalties against teachers, supervisors, head of institutions for indulging in plagiarism. So these are some of the broad salient features which this regulation has brought in. As I told you, the regulation did not deal with self-plagiarism, which was corrected in 2020. Now, these are some important definitions. See, I'm not going to read everything, but I'm going to just focus on the very crux of it. Please see the definition of script. I'll just point out the problem areas for your sake. I'm not taking up academic integrity and plagiarism since I have already dealt with this aspect. The word script, whatever you give to your supervisor, whatever you give to your teacher, whatever you give to the person checking the plagiarism is referred as a script. Now that script includes a research paper, thesis, dissertation, chapters in a book. You can read the content. Award of master and research level degrees. Okay. However, this shall exclude assignments, term papers, project reports, coursework, essays, and answer scripts. So, LLB students are exempted, are not covered within this existing definition. If you read the definition provided of student and script, I hope everyone can read it. If you read script and students, you can easily make out that bachelor level students are not covered in the definition. It merely talks about person duly admitted and pursuing program of study, including a research program. And it talks about award of master level and research level degree. Now, what is master level? MA, LLM, MCOM, MSc. And what is a research level degree? That is, of course, a PhD or a postdoc. Okay. Now, students of IP University must not feel too enthusiastic about it. Now, this question comes by. The question becomes important because remember, if I take you back, I talked about this blue box, the institutional ordinance and regulations dealing with self-plagiarism. Even though UGC has not included bachelor level students within the scope of plagiarism regulation, the institution can include them. That means the IP University can include such students within the plagiarism framework. The existing provision in the IP University I'm talking about specifically because that matter came to my knowledge right now. The IP University in 2013 came up with its own set of regulations on plagiarism. Okay. And in 2020, if my memory serves me correct, in 2020, they are in the process of amending their entire regulation on plagiarism. and it is expected to be notified very soon. I'm not sure whether it has been notified. I'll request the faculty, the teachers, to check on this fact, that they include now assignments, term papers, the internship report, everything has been included within the definition of this script. So the institution, that means the IP University, had acted upon, it has amended this ordinance, it has taken up the UGC regulation and built upon it further to tighten the norms. Because the task force was set up in April 2020 and it came up with its report in August 2020. It specifically talks about including, and I have the list even right now, the term papers, the project reports, the internship reports, any work which the student has submitted for the completion of his award of degree, bachelor's or master's, is included within the plagiarism norms. So that's why one should be aware of these definitions, specifically for the institution to know about these things. Now comes the duty-based regulation. This is a duty-based. If we see the UGC regulation, it is duty intensive. It sets up a lot of duties on the higher education institution. These are some 5 duties imposed by the regulation, section 3 to 6 by the UGC, that you have to do these things. Okay. I'm not going into the detail of it. Section 3 and 6 primarily deals with the UGC, and it is heavily loaded for the higher education institution. उनको सॉफ्टवेयर भी प्रोवाइड करना है, उनको डिटेक्ट भी करना है, उनको प्रोग्रेस प्रोसेस भी करना है प्लेजरिज्म के इश्यूज को, कंप्लेंट भी रिसीव करनी है, अवेयरनेस भी करनी है, सेंसिटाइज भी करना है. They have to take up lot of activities. Section 3 and 6, if one reads, they will come to know that higher educational institutions, universities, colleges have been given tremendous responsibility to create a practical regime, so that plagiarism does not happen within their institutional settings. Okay. Then comes the duty of the author. Duty not to plagiarize and submit an undertaking indicating that work is free from plagiarism. आपने देखा होगा आपकी जो the dissertations which IP universities they come up with a declaration. The supervisor also gives the declaration and the scholar also gives the declaration. I'm in the process of my PhD, so I will also have to give a declaration that my work is free from any plagiarism, and my supervisor would do the same. Okay, so now plagiarism levels, exclusions, and penalties. What is not plagiarism? Section 7 specifically of the regulation deals with this. All quoted work reproduced with all necessary permission or attribution. The simplest way, जिसे रामबाण इलाज बोलते हैं plagiarism का, that is the first thing, that you acknowledge the author. Please be honest with yourself and with the reader. Please acknowledge कर दो. My LLM supervisor used to say 2 things, that a researcher should be humble and honest. अगर आपने कहीं से कुछ लिया है तो प्लीज उसको एक्नॉलेज कर दीजिए जी, कोई आपका बाल बाका नहीं करे. टीचर विल लुक इनटू दैट फुटनोट कि फुटनोट कहाँ है और वो एट्रीब्यूशन कहाँ है. इफ दैट इज डन, योर मोस्ट ऑफ योर वरीज आर ओवर, unless you are a resourceful citer or a Shana plagiarist. Okay, plagiarist. All references, bibliography, table of content, preface, acknowledgements are excluded. So whenever you give a reference, bibliography, that is excluded. That is not to be included at the time of your plagiarism check. All generic terms, laws, standard symbols, etc. are excluded. Now the important part. Now I'm informed that the DME uses the Turnitin software, and the word count is 14, has been kept to 14. That comes from the UGC regulation of 2018, that the common knowledge or coincidental terms of up to 14 words is not plagiarism. Okay, if you have written something of 14 words is not plagiarism. Now there is a catch. What is the catch? it talks about only common knowledge or coincidental terms being subject matter of this 14 word count. ये जो 14 word count है, this only applies to common knowledge and coincidental terms. आपने किसी का 14 लाइन का आपने कहीं से, आप अगर किसी ने कुछ कहा है, if some person has said anything and you have copy pasted it without acknowledging, let's assume that it contains only 10 words. I'm giving you a practical example, what UGC regulation says and what is generally happens. UGC says those 14 word count must only exclude common knowledge and coincidental terms. Okay, but the Turnitin will take it as any word, provided it is within the framework, within the threshold of 14 words. तो अगर 10 words भी copy किए हैं, the UGC regulation says कि वो common knowledge शायद ना हो, वो coincidental term नहीं माना जाएगा. Okay, so this is an interesting term, but Turnitin takes up as 14 words. It does not differentiate between common knowledge or coincidental term. That is for a human intervention. A human mind has to be applied in these aspects. Okay, I'll come to that. Levels of plagiarism and penalties. Now, first of all, there is a lot of confusion about and lot of wrong information. It is generally assumed that similarity index means plagiarism. Similarity index, which जो Turnitin में red आता है और वो दिल की धड़कनें बढ़ा देता है कि यार हमारा तो बहुत आगे चला गया, हमारा बहुत पीछे रह गया. So that similarity index need not necessarily mean plagiarism. Please remember, plagiarism cannot be detected unless a human mind is involved. A human mind has to see the text, read the text, compare it with the original author, and then come to a conclusion whether it is plagiarized or not. What UGC regulation is doing is, it is merely providing a quantified figure of plagiarism. एक threshold, एक benchmark तो बनाना पड़ेगा ना. A benchmark has to be created. That benchmark is similarity index. Okay. Now, for example, you have written some text, you have copied some text, borrowed some text from a particular author, John Rawls. Okay, Theory of Justice लिखी है उन्होंने. So you have borrowed it, थोड़ा बहुत paraphrasing कर दिया और एक footnote लगा दिया. ठीक है, थोड़ा बहुत paraphrasing किया, लेकिन वो similarity index में आ गया because of certain operative words. 14 count से आगे बढ़ गई बात. ठीक है. Now you have attributed also. You have attributed the author. So by the law, by the regulation, since you have acknowledged the source, it is not a plagiarism. But the similarity index it's showing as plagiarism, as a similar. The textual content is similar. So you have to discuss this matter with the person who is conducting this plagiarism check. That please exclude this. Please exclude that. Okay. So the severity of plagiarism, this index does not indicate plagiarism in any way. It is just for a convenience, because sometimes the university is loaded with a lot of responsibilities, the faculties are, the teachers are. So it's very difficult, to read everything and decide to take an action on step-by-step basis. In PhD level, of course, the scrutiny is much more rigid and much more strict. But again, this similarity index is not plagiarism. It is indicative of the fact that you have taken some content from some place, which is available on the cyberspace. Similarity index is a determinate factor of plagiarism, not a decisive one. Okay. So I'm not reading out. So of course, similarity up to 10%, no penalty. So you're free. Okay. Similarities between 10 to 40%, you are asked to resubmit your thesis your dissertation, your script, and revise it within 6 months. You're given a period of 6 months and you have to revise it. If you exceed 40% and your plagiarism is between, similarity index is found to be between 40 to 60%, then you are debarred from submitting a script for 1 year. 1 year तक आपका जो work है वो hold पे चला जाना चाहिए. Okay. And if it is beyond 60%, the registration has to be cancelled outrightly. Okay. So if the similarities are found to be above 60%, then your registration in the program and your admission has to be cancelled. This is what UGC says. Similar punishments, consequences are also for the supervisors or for the academic and research publication. The supervisors may be debarred from taking up students for supervision. This can also happen with the supervisor. Okay. Now, how this mechanism would work? So there are two institutions which have been set up. One is DAIP, that is Departmental Academic Integrity Panel, and another one is the Institutional Academic Integrity Panel. The DAIP operates on a department level. अगर आपका college है, so law department, management department, journalism department, okay, and one at the institutional level. This is an appellate authority which operates at the institution level. Okay. Both have concurrent powers of investigating and assessing plagiarism. So जितना भी plagiarism होना होता है, वो यही लोग assess करते हैं. There has to be a committee which assesses the plagiarism. Okay. And investigate if there is a complaint received. सबसे पहले DAIP करता है investigate and submits its report and recommendations along with the penalties to the Institutional Academic Integrity Panel. It is much bigger, much powerful body. Okay. The time frame of disposing of the complaint received is 45 days in both the cases. Okay. Both DAIP and IAIP have to dispose of this complaint within 45 minutes. Now comes the copyright and plagiarism issue. This is very important because these are the two areas which often overlap with each other. What is copyright? What is plagiarism? Okay. I must tell you, they are much in common, but they are not identical. The sources are not identical. The content is not identical. The logic is not identical. So in order to have a perspective about copyright and plagiarism, you have to understand both the fields. And you have to understand that there will be situation where your work is not plagiarized, but borderlines the copyright infringement issue. And there will be cases where there is no copyright infringement, but there is a plagiarism issue. It can happen. So what is copyright? Using someone else's work without obtaining their permission. Okay. It is more about using someone's work without obtaining permission. You have to seek a permission. But in plagiarism, you are claiming credit for a work you did, not author. Plagiarism में आपने चोरी भी करी और अपने तरीके से पास ऑन कर दिया कि ये मेरा काम है, सिर्फ माय. You are depriving credit in both cases. कॉपीराइट में हो सकता है कि आप ऑथर को रिकॉग्नाइज कर लो, लेकिन आपने उसकी परमिशन के बिना कुछ ऑब्टेन कर लिया. कॉपीराइट इज अ मैटर ऑफ वायलेशन ऑफ अ राइट. एक राइट वायलेट होता है, कॉपी राइट. So there is a right which has been violated. In plagiarism, there is a violation of academic integrity. There is a code of ethics which binds a researcher, which binds a scholar, which binds a student, which binds a writer. That integrity has been violated. That academic integrity has been violated. In copyright, there is no question of integrity. There is no question of ethics. It is a question of violation of simple right to begin with at a fundamental level. Copyright is generally a construct of law. That means it is covered by IPR law. There are statutory laws, IPR provisions which deal with it. Is a court enforced remedy. You have to approach the court in order to assert your right. Where there is a right, there is a remedy, which is a court enforced. Plagiarism is a construct of ethics. आपके institutional settings में कुछ ethical rules होते हैं जिसको आप violate नहीं कर सकते. अगर आप उन ethics को violate करते हैं, if you violate those ethics, then institutional will enforce. So the institutional enforced remedy होती है. There is a institution enforced remedy which we discussed. Departmental academic integrity panel. Institutional academic integrity panel. Okay. Copyright, there is a violation against the copyright holder. Copyright holder and author are two different things. I can create some work, but I can transfer my right to another person. I wrote a paper for DME Law Journal. Okay. And I was asked to transfer the copyright to them, to the DME Law Journal, so far and so forth. So now I don't have the copyright. I am the author. I created the work, but the copyright now rests with the journal. But in plagiarism, violation can happen against the author only, against the original author. So if someone takes some content from my paper published in a journal, I can accuse him of plagiarism but not copyright, because copyright से मैंने अपना transfer कर दिया right to the author, to the publisher, to the translator, to the editor, etc. Another important distinction is copyright excludes ideas. Ideas are very much excluded in copyright, but in plagiarism, ideas are also included. Okay. When we entered into जब हम IPR जब हम पढ़ते थे, तो this was the first thing we were told, that copyright protection does not entail to ideas. But in plagiarism, ideas are well within the realm of plagiarism, the legal framework. Another difference, protection is limited to author's lifetime plus 60 years. The protection against copyright is available not permanently but limited. That means lifetime of the author or the copyright holder and 60 years. In plagiarism, protection is for perpetuity. So the John Austin example I gave you, even though John Austin, Province of Jurisprudence, he died after writing Province of Jurisprudence, the copyright has expired, but the plagiarism still continues till date. I can plagiarize his work. I will not be held guilty for copyright, but I am guilty of plagiarism. Exceptions. Exceptions in copyright are fair dealing, fair use doctrine, using work of expired copyright. Fair dealing में आप जानते हैं 10% की लिमिट है. जब आप research purpose के लिए कोई, whenever you use a work for research purposes, okay, legitimate educational purposes, that has been excluded from the purview. That is a fair dealing. Okay. And then permission from the copyright holder. In order to protect yourself from copyright infringement, you have to seek the permission of the copyright holder. But in plagiarism, you don't need the permission. All you have to do is proper attribution or acknowledgement to the original author. आप बस acknowledge कर दीजिए and plagiarism की तलवार नहीं लगेगी आपके. Okay. Now, I'm just coming to the conclusion of my slide. So, there are certain questions you must ask. Okay. Whenever you write something, ask these fundamental questions from yourself. Are the words which you are using, the text which you are using, are these yours? Are you the original author? If the answer is yes, the next question you should ask is it my idea? क्या ये मेरा idea है? Am I the creator of this idea? If the answer to this is yes, then you are not plagiarizing. If the answer is no, then you are paraphrasing. You have to paraphrase. Okay. If the answer to this question, are you using your own words? The answer is in negative. Then the next question will arise is, are you using quotation marks or placing it in block letters? That means distinguishing the text from the rest of the manuscript. If you are using quotations and there is a differentiation, then you are not plagiarizing. If no, then you are plagiarizing. What is the remedy? Just quote it and attribute it. Okay. Now, how to prevent, how to steer clear of plagiarism? Well, there are two types of answers. One is a specific answer and one is a general answer. I'll start with the general answer, that don't do plagiarism. The most simple.
So you have been muted.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Was I unmute for long? I don't know.
No, just for 2-3 seconds.
Okay. So the general or the specific. The general rule is don't plagiarize, please. As my LLM supervisor used to say, a researcher should be humble and honest. To begin with, please be honest, don't plagiarize. Okay. But if you want to plagiarize, if you want to not plagiarize but take some content, then follow some specific rules, some tricks of the trade, so that you steer clear from plagiarism. Okay. The first one is read the plagiarism policy of your institution. And please make sure you take note of the subject matter exclusions provided. Because as I told you, UGC regulations are not exhaustive. These are minimum standards which an institution is expected to observe. The individual institution can make stricter, more stringent stipulations. My friend is doing the research in JNU, and the center in which she is there, the permissible limit of similarity index is merely 5%. Merely 5%. And when she told me, and I was like that, in social sciences, you cannot have 5%. It's very difficult. So please read the plagiarism policy of your institution. This applies to both, to the teachers when they are conducting the plagiarism check, and for the students. Why for the students? Because in that way you can prepare your case. When you're caught plagiarizing something, you know what the policy is. So please read the plagiarism policy of your institution. And IP University should certainly read the new plagiarism policy which is coming up, because it will apply and it has made it more stringent. Earlier, the similarity index permissible was 30% for law students and other social sciences. Now it will be 10%. So please make sure that you read it very carefully when it comes out. Use uniform rules of citation. Please do that. That is more important. Blue Book, OSCOLA, ILI, API, Chicago, whatever citation you use, be consistent with them. Okay. I've seen many research papers, many articles where the citation is not proper, where sometimes they're quoting ILI, sometimes they're not quoting at all, sometimes they're not conforming to the rules of citation, and that sometimes really irritates you, that why the citation is not proper. Provide full details of the original author. Generally, if you see the ILI rules of footnoting, which I'm conversant with, they ask you everything under the sun. It makes it very lengthy, of course, and you review the whole day, first of all, to find the title, the publisher, the year of publication, the web link source. There are hundreds of information which you have to fill in, but that actually helps you in the next case. Okay. Using quotation marks and para indenting for verbatim excerpts. Whenever you take something verbatim, please use quotation marks. Please use it, or do it para indenting, or you do both. For example, if you use the ILI rules of footnoting, it says that only if there is 3 lines, if the quotation is of 3 lines, you just have to put the quotation marks. But if it exceeds 3 lines, then you have to use the para indenting and no quotes. Okay. So always make sure that quotation marks and or para indenting is done for verbatim excerpts. Okay. Next is footnotes are your friends and bibliography is your best friend. Trust me when I say this, that will be throughout your research. They are sometimes very irritating, and I agree. But at the end of the day, when you're caught in the net, these footnotes are going to save you. And the bibliography is going to save you the most. Because first of all, bibliography is excluded. And whenever you do a background referencing work in your research, कहीं से book से पढ़ लिया, कहीं कुछ से reference ले लिया, so you always mention it in your bibliography, even though you have not cited in your text. Bibliographies also include the general readings which you have undertaken, not specifically cited in your research. So always remember, footnotes are your friends and bibliography is your best friend. Okay. Paraphrase with attribution and acknowledgement. So please remember, paraphrasing does not mean that you don't have to put a citation, you don't have to put a footnote. काफी लोग काफी रिलीफ फील करते हैं कि मैंने पैराफ्रेज कर दिया सब कुछ, बट मैंने साइटेशन क्यों लगाऊं, मैंने पैराफ्रेज तो कर ही दिया है, but that is also a plagiarism of a kind. Okay, so please, if you are paraphrasing, make sure that it has been appropriately attributed and acknowledged. Okay, I'll come to the 7th point little bit later. Okay, never save your work in repository on anti-plagiarism software unless your institution does that. Okay, students कई बार भूल जाते हैं अपना काम. Many times they forget. It can happen with anyone. They forget to untick the create repository, and then next time when they will check for plagiarism, it will show everything as a similar index in the similarity index. This is a major problem. It happened with one of the students in Amity Law School. I think my colleagues from Amity would surely recollect that time. And there was a whole discussion about it. Desist from using free online plagiarism checking tools available on the internet. Please. This is very important because students sometimes, if there is an absence of anti-plagiarism checking device in your institution, then students, what they do is they go on websites and there are list of free online plagiarism softwares available. Viper is there, the unpaid, the free versions. What they will do is they will put it everything under the sun and they will check a run-up plagiarism check. In many cases, it has been observed that it creates a repository in the background. It creates a background repository which the student or the writer or the author is not aware of. And when next time that person checks it, it will show on the similarity index. So desist from using free online plagiarism checking tools. If the institution does not have it, the higher education institution is mandated under the law to provide you with anti-plagiarism tools. Now coming to the last point only, and it is important, always check the source within another's work before footnoting it in your text. This is very common practice. What happens is when we are researching and we come across a very good research paper, what we do is we take that text, we see that if the paper is good, we use the references used in the paper. If a paragraph is written by, let's say, X person, and he has used that certain footnotes are there, he has put certain footnotes are there, what we will do is, what a writer would do is, that writer would take up the entire text, paraphrase it, and use the citation used by the original author. Original author ने जो references use करी, the writer has used all those references. This is very common practice which is happening. क्योंकि इससे time बचता है. Please understand, the original author might have used his lot of resources in searching for those locations, for those references. He might have looked at the books. He might have referred to an article. You are just using his work, his labor of finding the references, and you're copy pasting it in your article and using a footnote. So in order to protect, for the sake of your own, just have a look at the source which he has cited. Because today things are not that difficult. you can get things on your own. It's very easy now. You can get articles, you can get everything, because everything has to be online now, because everything is happening online now. So don't just copy paste the references used by the original author in any manner. Just check the source, what he has used, and then cite it. That is much better way of doing research. Okay. I think thank you very much for your time and patience. I think I have taken a lot of time. So that's why thank you for your time and patience are in order. And that's I end my.
Thank you so much, sir. That was indeed a very informative presentation. Now I'd like to call Rohit to open the question answer session.
Thank you, Tanisha, for passing on the stage for question answer to me. Although we have crossed the time limit and we have a lot of questions in the chat box as well as on the mail ID, but we will restrict it. So before starting it, while we are going through the question answer round, it is to be noted that the attendance sheet as well as the questionnaire, which is for the purpose of deciding the result, is being circulated in the chat box, and the participants are requested to fill it before leaving the meeting, also for the purpose of certificate. So, sir, the first question which has been asked is by Ms. Sukanya Mehma. She asked how to write original article when we read only sources and materials written by others.
Yes, that's what I was talking about, the resourceful citer, that you footnote everything. And I agree that this is a problem which we face in social sciences, because most of the things have already been said and already been written about. In these aspects, in order to protect yourself from plagiarism, first of all, it goes without saying that acknowledgement and attribution has to be made for every other thing you are taking up. And then the conclusion part, or your assessment of those facts, your assessment of what the original authors have written, becomes much more important. The resourceful citer, the Shana plagiarist which I talked about, I'm again repeating, it would not be a plagiarism if you cite everything under the sun, provided you come up with your own set of evaluation, assessment of those excerpts. Okay, so make sure whenever you're taking up things from particular sources. For example, if you're writing on rape laws, okay, a lot has been said about rape laws. What your originality lies in how you process those statements. If Indira Jaising has said something about rape laws, what is your take on it? That is part of your originality. Okay, because your view will always remain your original view. That is your belief, that is your opinion, which has to be. If it is matching up with the another person, it is coincident. It will definitely fall, because human minds, there are bound to be similarity of views, of course. Okay, so always remember, whenever you are citing sources from different sources, always give at the end your view, what you think is the appropriate view. What are the reasons? You justify the reasons why you are supporting X person, why you are supporting X view, not Y view. If you do that diligently, I don't think so there is a case of plagiarism made out. You can effectively put up your case that I have given reasons why I support this view and reasons why I don't support this view. Okay.
Thank you, sir, for addressing the question so well. The second question, which is asked by Gaurav Pati Tripathi, he asks that what is the thin line difference between inspiration and plagiarism?
That is a very loaded question. That what is the line between inspiration and plagiarism? See, again, I'm repeating the same thing. Inspiration you can take from anyone. How you put the words, that is your job. That is your responsibility. Okay. I can take sovereignty. When I gave the example of sovereignty, I quoted Austin, if a determinate superior. That is the inspiration. I'm taking inspiration what he thought was sovereign. That is an inspiration. I'm drawing from him what he thought of sovereign. But when I'm writing it on the paper, I have to use my words first of all, number one. And secondly, I have to cite it that the original content was said by someone else. You are giving plagiarism and protection against plagiarism is very simple. Again, I'm repeating, attribution. Just pay the credit where it is due. If I take something from Gaurav without acknowledging him, he will always have a grudge against me that this person has taken something from me. If I say that I'm inspired by Mr. Gaurav Tripathi, then he will feel a little bit relaxed that at least my name has come up in his mind and he has spoken it out. Okay, so there is no problem in taking inspiration as long as you acknowledge that inspiration, you give due credit to that. There is nothing wrong in giving credit. No human being can claim to be knowing everything. Nobody is know it all. Of course, there are many people who would claim that they are know it all, but trust me, there is no person who know it all. Every person draws inspiration from some other person. Okay, even I have drawn my inspiration from someone other, from my teachers as well, some of my friends who I can see also. Okay, but I always make sure, and I'm also again I'm crediting them for that inspiration. So there is a thin line that I'm giving their due credit, which is due. Okay.
Thank you, sir. The third question is asked by Prateek. He asks, sir, ki if if we are getting our original work published, we have no control over anyone who copies it. But is there anything regarding publication that we should keep in mind to protect our work?
See, first of all, जिसको चोरी करनी है वो करेगा. Trust me. It is very practical and a very simple answer because some things. Hello. Is my voice coming?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
या जिसको चोरी करनी है वो करेगा. आप उस पे लाख ताले लगा लो, चोरी तो होगी. This is a simple answer, but because it happened with me as well, somebody copied my verbatim paper and put it on the SRN website. Okay. Now there are few steps which you can always make sure. First of all, if you have found a paper, particular paper, which was your original work, first of all, if it is on a website, always report it to that website concerned. Do this as a first instinctive action. I published my all papers. First of all, make an account in Google Scholar. This is a very practical suggestion I'm giving, which every one of us can follow. Make an account in Google Scholar. Make your account in ResearchGate. Make your account in other SSRN. There are many academia, and put your research work to the world. If not the full text, then the abstract of it. So at least people know that there is a person working in this area. Okay. And in further in taking up the cases, you have a very strong case that my paper is there in that particular location. So I can tell you that there is no trick of the trade that you know how to protect your intellectual. That comes under the copyright protection for that matter. But for protection against the plagiarism, report it as early as possible. In my case, it happened twice. When my paper, when my synopsis was copied and was used by someone else, I reported instantly to that person that you're using it, stop using it. And I created electronic records of that. In future, it would be definitely useful. Okay, so that is a one thing I can recommend to you, that make your accounts, make sure that public knows what you are working on. Please, you have to be a little bit selfish in your research. To be very frank, you have to tell the people, you have to sometimes brag about your work which you are doing, so that the others are at beware that this person is working in that area. Because this has happened with me, so I can be very clear about it, that always tell what you're working on. If not in entire detail, but at least people should have a knowledge. When they type your name, when they look at the ResearchGate, SSRN, Google Scholar, they know what you're working, in which area you're working, at least. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Sir, as we have less time, so we will take the last question for the day. And this question is very interesting, and I have also this similar question, sir. So there is always a difference in similarity percentage whenever we run papers on different software like Turnitin or Urkund. So what can be done in that case?
See, Urkund is little bit new. Turnitin is little bit old. Turnitin का जो indexing है, the indexing of Turnitin is far greater than Urkund, because Urkund is comparatively newer on the streets. That's why whatever you calculate on Turnitin, it will always get reduced in Urkund. This is a practical case. अगर आपका Turnitin पे 10%, 15% आ रहा है, I can give it in to you in writing. If you do it in Urkund, you will not find it more than 5%. This is a true thing. Okay. In that case, see, whatever tools your institution is providing, you have to rely on that. Because I told you that this is a matter of convenience, because first of all, institutions have limited resources. Even if they have unlimited resources, they generally take up one software. They don't take up two softwares. Okay. The regulations are such which stresses upon the similarity index. Similarity index has to be detected by a plagiarism software. That can be done only by either by Turnitin or Urkund. UGC regulations talks about only two kinds of software, either Urkund or Turnitin. Okay, so these are the two options you are stuck with as of now. Okay, so whenever you are going through, whenever a student faces this problem, first of all, see which software you are using. If it is Turnitin, I'm told that DME uses Turnitin. So keep certain things in mind. Whenever you are caught above 10%, look at the problem areas, look at the similarity, areas of similarity which is caught up in the Turnitin. And discuss this with your person who is checking your plagiarism, whether there is a scope for exclusions. Okay, so always ask them to exclude things. This is happening in the even at the doctoral studies level. Whenever one of my research scholar in another department of Jamia faced this similar problem, his since the Jamia ordinance permit only 10% of similarity index, his case was found to be around 20%. But whatever was being caught up, it was all either attributed or quoted. Then it was found that the faculty who was conducting the plagiarism check forgot to put the quotation marks. Okay, so that's why. So you also, that's why I'm telling you, please read the policy carefully and discuss where are the exclusions. Discuss this with your teacher, discuss it with the person who's checking the plagiarism, and certainly you will get reduced. Your plagiarism definitely will get reduced if you discuss these things. Okay. So this, anything else anyone wants to ask, they're free to contact, mail, no phone calls, but emails are always there.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful session and addressing all the questions. This was all about the question answer session. Now I would like to invite Megha to continue further.
Thank you, Rohit, for the questionnaire round. I would just like to inform that the questionnaire form has been circulated in the chat box itself, and the questionnaire is valid only for 20 minutes. Now, we are at the end of this session, and I would just like to address that it's always such an enriching and learning experience to work with Research Cell. And hereupon, I would like to call upon Ms. Upasna Singh, Assistant Professor DME, to give vote of thanks.
Thank you, Megha. I think I should begin by thanking all the participants for joining us, and Mr. Abhishek Gupta, who is soon to become Abhishek Gupta PhD very soon. So thank you for such a wonderful session. You are always very fixated upon technicalities and rules, and that shows your knowledge is very precise and clear. I hope that the participants included some students from few students from DME as well. I hope that students learned the relevance of academic integrity, plagiarism, and similarity. I want to thank all the team. I will not take much time, so I just want to thank all the team members, students as well as faculties for as in coming together, cooperating with each other, and putting up such a good show.
Just a second, Upasna ji, I would just add one thing, since you said that I have a lot of knowledge. I'll be very candid with you. First of all, plagiarism is a learning process. Knowing about plagiarism, what constitutes plagiarism, is genuinely a learning process. When we entered into our master, we knew nothing about plagiarism. Lot of things I've learned when I was doing my doctoral research. Okay, and I'm still in the process of continuing learning that what constitutes and what not. Okay,
Right.
so it is always, everything is a learning. Plagiarism specifically is a learning process which we will always. Okay,
Right.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we can conclude, Megha. Thank you all for joining. Have a good evening and rest of the day. Thank you.